side of the family, they were all like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?"
Hey, welcome to Happy Hour. Cheers, everybody.
Hello.
Cheersies, Heather. There you go. Kind of a different happy hour tonight. We gave Max and Bob and Lamar the night off because Bob works just so hard, just so darn hard.
He's tired.
He works for like hours almost every day, and he's really exhausted. Like sometimes he works as many as four.
That's what
Four
it's like.
hours, y'all. That is like
What are you gonna do? This is life.
paging the UN. So we gave, and Max is as you know, Max has been in a play and he got rear-ended by an 18-wheeler last weekend waiting to go on stage. So he's
He's
got
okay, but
kind
he's
of, yeah,
okay.
he's
He's okay.
okay.
He's fine. He's
He's
okay.
okay. But he's got kind of a lot going on and he's real exhausted. So Tony and I said, well, we're just going to do happy hour with Heather. And we can, we were going to talk about weird stuff, but we can, talk about whatever. Hi, Cheryl and Jane and Kurt and Karen and Susan. Welcome
I
to the
also
show.
have some giveaways. I think we're gonna do 5, right, Tony?
We are gonna do 5 true weird stuff coffee mugs.
Yep. So keep
So,
commenting.
so can I tell y'all something fun? The episode of True Weird Stuff that dropped last week was called The Boy from Mars, and it was
Yeah.
about reincarnation. And it was specifically about this one little boy who was born in Volgograd in Russia. And like from infancy, like from his moment as a newborn, he was so developmentally off the charts advanced and with no other way to explain this child who was talking in complete sentences and paragraphs at like 6 months of age and doing advanced mathematics, and he understood like really difficult astronomical concepts. They called him a genius. And then when he was 7 years old on a family camping trip, he told his parents and assembled family members that this was not his first life, that he had lived before, and that that life had not even been on Earth.
Wow.
So it's a
Wow.
wild story. And today his name is Boris Kiprianovich. So as a little boy, they called him by the Russian nickname for Boris, which is Boriska, which Heather, make a note, excellent name for a cat.
Boriska.
Boriska.
Yeah.
So today, Boris Kiprianovich is allegedly living he's living a quiet life and in hiding, concealed by Putin's government.
Really?
Because there are dictaphone recordings of this child, age 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, talking about some really advanced and obscure stuff. And so, whether you believe it or not, man, that's entirely up to you. True weird stuff. We're just here to tell you a story. You bring the campfire, we'll bring you the story. Every story we tell you is true, at least true according to the people who lived it. So, what you believe is what you believe. But Max and I had been working on this episode for a while and we were talking about it afterward. And it was one day late in the afternoon. The show was long finished and Lamar was with us. And so it's me and Doc and Max and Lamar. And Max and I are going, yeah, but it's very compelling that blah, blah, blah. And what about such and so? And in the episode, I talk about this research that's been going on for decades at the University of Virginia into children who report past life memories, and specifically children here in North America, where a belief in reincarnation is not an established part of the culture. So Lamar is here for all of these conversations and all kinds of wild reincarnation and the multiverse and the paranormal and all the stuff we do on True Word Stuff. And so today I said to Lamar, it's probably kind of trippy for you. And he interrupted me and said, I am praying for y'all so hard. I pray. You have no idea how hard I'm praying for you and Max. And I was like, well, we both said, well, thank you. That is so appreciated.
Take all the help you can get.
Yeah,
Take
we're here
all the
for
help
it.
you can get.
We're here for it. Hi, Pat Stevenson and Eugene. Oh, you enjoyed that episode. Thank you so much for listening to that, Pat. Hi, Wendy Wright in Bangor. Joe Penny says, good to see you, Tony.
Hi, Joe.
Elizabeth Goldwyn, holy moly, not what I imagined Tony to look like. Well, that's because you've only ever heard us describe him naked.
I'm so sorry that you're disappointed. I'm bereft. that you are disappointed.
Let's see. Sending love to y'all from beautiful Southern Illinois. Hi, Jeannie Hanks and Angela Churisco. I tried to put your face to your voice for years. Now I know. There you go,
Okay,
Tony.
well, nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So that was that episode of True Word Stuff. The one that dropped last week was about the cult.
That's interesting. That reincarnation stuff. Because
Isn't it?
sometimes I feel like you get those little flashes that you feel like you're in a situation, you go, I've been here before.
Deja vu.
Yeah, that weird
Sort of,
deja
but in a
vu.
way like or like I'll see a documentary on something, I'll go, yeah, I feel like I was there. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Oh, hey, Jeff Carter. Hi, Jeff. Hey, baby Jeff. How you doing? So here's the thing about that. Like one of the questions Max asked me in every True Word episode is a whole story. And then Max and I have a chit chat about it afterward, right? Um, but Max asked me about like, do you feel that you've had another life? And I all I can tell you is I feel that I rushed back to this life that I
No.
came to. So here's what okay, hear me out. Y'all, if you can't handle this, please go because this is the true weird happy hour. Okay, so let me tell y'all. So my mom was a teenage bride and she had my big brother Mark, and then she got pregnant again with twin baby boys. And twin pregnancies are very, very dangerous. And my mom is Rh negative. She's also left-handed with hazel eyes, alien hybrid, but she's Rh negative. And
There's nothing wrong with being left-handed.
One
nothing,
one
May I just
second.
or with
say,
being an alien
there's
hybrid.
absolutely nothing
Hang
wrong
on,
with
hang on 1 second before we get. Somebody had a really good question. Tony, is the Bob and Cherry water bottle dishwasher safe?
Oh, for crying out loud. Really? For crying out loud. So everyone should know, everyone on planet Earth should know that yes, it's dishwasher safe. But if you'd like it to continue to say Bob and Sherry for years and years to come, hand wash the damn thing.
I hand wash anything
Hand
with a
wash the damn
logo
thing.
on it. Yeah. I mean, you
It's
could,
that,
but eventually the
it's
printing
that
will.
simple.
Yeah, I would. I mean, but then again, life is
I actually
short
have some here.
and truly terrible. Yeah. So maybe just put it in the dishwasher and fucking
Yeah.
rip, right?
Yeah. Don't put,
Um,
do not put it. Get a sponge. Temu has like 1,000 sponges for like 18 cents. Get you one of those sponges and wash the bottom.
so back to
Sorry.
reincarnations. No,
Sorry.
I know with you. My mom loves to
I'm
wash
going to come
dishes by
back as a
hands.
damn water bottle. That's
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
So my mom has my big brother and she gets pregnant again with twin baby boys. Twin pregnancies are very dangerous even today. And my mom had the RH factor before they could give you a shot for it, right? So my mom gives birth to twin boys. One is a stillborn and the other
Oh,
dies a few hours afterward.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
really sad. And my father was unable, people don't today, 2024, people don't know how to they don't know how to be when you lose a baby like that.
yeah.
They say things like you're young, you can
Yeah.
have another,
Been
or
there. Been
yeah,
there, done
been
that.
there, you've done it, right? Or it's best to just, like put it behind you. And my mother was absolutely devastated. My mother was destroyed. Catholic priest came to the hospital, and my mother, this barely out of her teenage years, asks the priest, Father, are my babies in heaven? And the priest said, they weren't baptized, so they're in limbo, which is why my mother is converted to Mormonism and is in the Church of Latter-day Saints today. After a lifetime of hardcore Catholicism, all girls Catholic school, everything. So my mother is devastated and grieving, and she gets pregnant again. And that's me. And I believe or feel, I'm not sure what the word is, that I agreed to come back for this grieving young mother.
Hmm.
I agreed to be her baby.
Wow.
And the way that our particular story played out is not a fairy tale, very difficult. And it has not been easy for her to be my mother, nor has it been easy for me to be her daughter. But I believe that somebody needed to volunteer The
Mhm.
call went out,
Mhm.
and I said, I'll go. I'll go. And so I feel that way. Now, is that just me being nuts? Very possible. Very possible. And that's the thing about when you're talking about the soul and the spirit and where we come from and where we go. You either take it on faith or you're a nutcase. Thoughts?
It took
Um,
everything in me not to say Cotton Eye Joe after you said that. Just want you to know.
Thank you.
but it,
Thank you, Heather.
but
Respect.
when you have those things happen in your life, it happened to us too. We lost a child 20 weeks. Um, you do, it changes your whole attitude. People do, and you people don't know what to tell you. They don't know what to say. Oh, you can have another. Think of the fun you'll have having
They
another
don't
one.
know what to
And it's like
say.
that's the last thing you want to hear is think of the fun you'll have having another one. Um, and it's tough. It's really, it's a tough thing. And that for us was 30 something years ago, and that's still with us.
It's still, that's your child.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whether it was because of my mom's experience, and I mean, it's not like I always knew that my mom had twin boys that didn't survive, but I knew kinda early on, because there was this deep, untouchable sadness in my mom, and I was very, very I was the only girl, I was the apple of her eye, like, I was like her in every way, I'm so like my mother, I look like my mom, um, and I think that there's something to that, and you know what? I made that choice, and I'm good with it. I'm good with it. You can make a choice and have things not turn out awesome and still not regret the
But it's
choice.
also not a straight line. So, define awesome, right? In everybody's life, there's bad stuff, right? So you have to look at it in the total.
Yeah.
You have to look in the total and go, oh, all things considered, wasn't so bad. But everybody has bad stuff that happens.
You can't be human.
We all have it. It all looks a little different, but at the end of the day, it all smells the same, and you just deal with it.
I think about what James Van Prague said on the True Weird episode Talking to Heaven when he talked about how this is a soul school and that we have so much that we need to learn and that we're such emotional creatures and we have to learn how to love and be loved and how to forgive and be forgiven because it is as hard to be forgiven as it is to
To forgive.
forgive.
Agreed.
And these are things that we come here to learn. And for some of us, kind of like me with math, you're going to maybe need a few handfuls of passes at it.
I
So
may need hundreds. I may
hundreds,
need hundreds.
yeah.
Algebra.
Yeah.
It was algebra. It was just algebra.
It's one of the best it's one of the best things about this podcast that we do because we get to like for years and years and years we've all worked together for a million years. And these are the conversations we would have with each other late at night over drinks, right?
Right.
And so to be able to kind of bring this out and really talk about it, I don't know, I think it's healing.
Yeah.
It is. I think it
Don't
is.
you think?
I think talking about keeping that bottled up, and I'm not a talker, by the way, just so everybody knows that I don't talk about things, but it does help. It's
Listen,
hard. It's hard.
it's
And for
brutal.
guys, it's really hard.
It's brutal.
But
listen to what Tammy Johnson said. She said in the chat, I believe that a relative came to me with a task to complete for him before I was born. I finally did when the ship he died on in World War II was found in 2019.
oh wow.
Right?
Ooh.
I have, I've always been told that I was sort of like an old soul, but I have no any kind of, memory or feeling or anything like that. So the more I read on reincarnation, the more interested I am in what could have been. I know, Sherry, you were going to do something on past lives with, I think you had someone who could look into it.
I was supposed to do a past life regression last July, but 2023 was not an optimal year for this girl. And so I could not, you need to to do a past life regression, you need to have ample time leading up to it. There's a whole preparation. I didn't know this until I really committed, right? There's all this preparation that goes into it. And then I had to travel out of town to do it. And I knew that I would be sort of like thrown for a loop. And I literally worked in 2023. it was the rare week I wasn't working 7 days a week,
Mm.
because there's the radio show that's Monday through Friday that's 4 hours long, but Tony and I own the company and all the
There's a few other
podcast. Like,
things.
you're
There's a
looking
few other
at the
things to
company,
do.
and Heather will tell you, like, we all work like dogs,
Mhm.
you know, because it's tough to be in this business now. So, and I had family stuff. I just felt like I couldn't break away. But I'm committed to doing it this summer. And I just want to say, because I invite skeptics. And in fact, I have an episode coming up where I talk about how important skeptics are to science. Because if I just say some crazy shit and nobody pushes back on it, well, that's not really good. You should definitely challenge and push back. But let me say this, as someone who grew up, the both of us, hardcore Catholic.
Oh yeah.
We were raised
Oh
by
yeah.
grandmothers from the like, these were witches from the old country. These women, my grandmother was so tight with the Virgin Mary that I was probably 10 before I realized that the Virgin Mary did not live on our street. Okay. So, like, hardcore Catholic. But if you are a person of faith, whether that's the Christian faith or any other faith, if you are a person of faith and you believe in an eternal soul that can be redeemed, whether that's by Christ or Buddha or Muhammad or whatever, if you believe that you have an immortal, eternal soul, then you're 80% of the way to reincarnation.
Yes.
And I'm going to throw
Yeah.
Albert
You're
Einstein.
you're on that road. You're on that road.
I'm going to throw Albert Einstein into the mix, because as humans, we're so small and so emotional and so limited that for us, time is only one thing. It's linear and it moves in that direction, right? But even Einstein said we have it wrong. The time is actually circular, and that everything, it's like the movie, it's everything everywhere all at once. So if you can embrace the quantum physics, the idea that time is not a linear arrow that moves only to the right, and you believe that your soul is immortal, that you're not just a piece of talking meat, well, then you're pretty close to believing in reincarnation.
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right.
Maddie Welch says, I've done a lot of past life regression, have had many lives, been a flamingo, a sea captain, a peasant, a teacher, a princess, and an Indian. Been told I'm an old soul and my spirit guide is Mothindian. I've seen people in past lives that are in my present life. It's kind of cool. Wow, that's very cool. That is very cool.
There's a really
It's really
cool
interesting.
song. There's a really cool song by a guy named Jimmy Webb called Highwayman. I don't know if you guys, I'm not everybody watching knows that song, but it was done by Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Waylon Jennings back in the 70s. And it talks about reincarnation. And one of the lines is, I'll come back and I may be simply drop of rain,
Yeah,
but something will remain. And I think that was
it's
and it's
beautiful.
comforting, and it's comforting in
It's
a way.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you the
Yeah.
science. Like, for example, energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed, right? And we don't even know where human consciousness comes from. And even in the Walt Whitman poem, Leaves of Grass,
hmm
he says, listen, I'm gone, but don't grieve. Look for me. I'm everywhere. I'm in the grass. I'm in the trees. I'm in the wind. Like, you don't the reason that people push back on reincarnation, in my opinion, are you ready?
hmm
Is because you can't bear to think of yourself as anything other than this ego version of yourself.
Yeah, because you're alive now. And I think as a guy, I don't know how it is for other guys, but for me, it's a scary thing that you're not going to be here. It's more comforting to know I'm not going to be here, but at some point I'm coming back.
Well,
Right.
because you think, well, I
But it's
don't,
hard to think that way because you're like,
like Bob said
yeah,
to me
but
one
God.
time. Bob said to me one time, he's like, well, I don't want to be someone other than Bob. And I'm like, really? You could have fooled me. Like, most days. Like, it seems like the last thing you want to be
Right.
is Bob.
Anything but God.
But I mean, like, I love my family and I love my friends, and I can't imagine, like, if I'm not this me, who's going to love my family and friends?
But here's what I think. We've been together before.
I do too. Let's talk about soul tribes.
Because we've I mean, not at the same time. We didn't all show up together at the same time, but you and Bob showed up together. And then all of a sudden Max showed up. And then Lamar showed up. and then Tony showed up, and it's been a long flipping time.
We've lived our lives together.
We almost grew up together, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
spent most of our adult lives working together. And I think that there's a reason for that. And I took the job despite your braces.
Oh my God. And my speech impediment. It's so nice to meet you. As
Yeah.
I'm like slurping my food because I couldn't chew.
One day we'll have to tell that story, but not today.
There are a lot of faith practices that believe in the idea of soul collectives, soul families, soul tribes, pick your word, where we live lifetimes together, but in different relationships. Like in this lifetime, we're partners. In another lifetime, we were acquaintances or neighbors or siblings, or you were my mom or whatever, right? And so you travel through this crazy life and you meet so many people, and most of them just, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? And they disappear back into the crowd. But some people, you meet them and it's like the lights go on and you realize this is a person for me.
Like, yeah, you know this person. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can
like-
tell you. So like I had no intention of being in radio. I had actually been accepted into graduate school at Duke for anthropology. I was going to be a professor. And I was working my last few months at my TV job when I met Bob, and they offered me this job in radio. And I was like, please do not be ridiculous. Like, I've never even been in a school play. Like, there's no way I could be in the radio, like on the radio, like whatever. And so I turned it down and they were aghast. Like, how could you not want to be on the radio? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to have to change my name and stuff. Like I had like completely the worst response to this job offer.
So you didn't like the idea of being Rockin' Robin Lane?
I was like, I don't want to be named Sandy Beach. Like, what? And also, I had pulled myself up out of chaos and violence and poverty to get an education. And I wanted to get my education. But there was something about Bob Lacey. There was like this voice in my head that was like, there you are. Now we can start.
Mm-hmm.
And we are still together all these years later.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's weird. I'll tell you the first time. So I interviewed for this job,
And it's a job.
And so I flew up in a thunderstorm from Hartford, Connecticut to Charlotte, and put entire 8 ounces of coffee onto my beige suit in the most unfortunate spot you could possibly put it. And then our boss, Rick, decides he's going to take me on this whirlwind tour of everyone. So I'm meeting with the engineer and we're talking about satellites and hooking up satellites and what kind of satellite we're going to be on. And like we made the decision. I'm like, dude, you haven't hired me yet. But I just decided what satellite you're going to be carried on. And then we had the lunch. Then we had the pulverized spaghetti lunch. And then the deal that I'd made with Rick is I had to bring my family down. I had to bring my son and my wife down because we'd had a not great experience in the Deep South and thought that maybe they wouldn't like living in North Carolina. And so I brought them down, and it was President's Day weekend. So right around this time of year, I came down, and my son, who is hyperactive and was probably 5 years old. He was probably 5 years old.
He was tiny.
4 or 5 years old.
He was tiny.
And he goes there, and you'd think he'd always been at the radio station.
Yeah.
And he's running up and down the halls, and Rick is chasing him, and he catches him, and he takes him, and he puts him on his shoulder, and he's riding him around the radio station, and it felt like
home.
It felt like home. Like this is where I should be. Mm-hmm. And it was a very weird. It's a very strange. Weird thing, but I was like, okay, we're here.
It's very strange, and that doesn't happen all the time with everyone.
No,
it doesn't.
And I think that there are people probably in listening today that walk into a place and have the exact opposite. They walk into a place and go, yeah, this is not. And I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I took a job and quit it in 3 days because I walked in and I'm like, I do not like the vibe here. And I gave it a couple of days, and I drove back it was a couple hours away from where I was living at the time. And I drove back, and on the way back, I called the guy who would have been my boss and said, yeah, I'm out. Because the vibe was just not good.
I've had that with apartments and houses, like when I was hunting around. you know, the price could be right, everything could be right, landlord could be nice, but I walk in there and I'm like, I don't live here. And,
Yeah.
you know, leave. And it's so interesting because this house that I moved into, I think it was 10 years ago now, when I visited my cousin who was living in it at the time, I thought, that's my house. And
Yeah,
then,
this house, this
yeah,
place
this
right
one that I'm
here.
in.
Yeah.
It's so this is one of those things I pay attention to because I am very blessed to have a job where I meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
I really do. I meet more people than the average person, and I'm always paying attention um, because I'm looking for those flickers of. I think of it as recognition, but maybe the better word is affinity. You
Hmm.
know, where
Hmm.
like I just talked to 50 people, but there's something about you
Mhm.
that locks in. And for the longest time, and I do regret this, for the longest time, I didn't want to seem like a weirdo. And so I would not act on those feelings. And I made the decision during the COVID lockdowns that I was not going to be a weirdo, that I was not going to worry about being a weirdo anymore. And I started like reaching out to people and saying, hey, you want to get together and have a drink? Or we have someone that I met as a Bob and Sheri listener, but I don't know, there was something about her and her baby and her wife that I just really vibed with. And I ended up going to their house one night, Christina and Jennifer's house, dropping something off, like surprise or whatever. And I'm playing with their cat and with their baby and all. And I'm just like, I know it's super weird, but I like really love you people.
And tell them to hand wash the water bottle.
Yeah, and you may be like, "Why is this woman in my living room?" But I am going to make sure that we are friends. And so, this just a couple months ago, I reached out and I was like, "You should come over and make Christmas cookies with me," and they did. But you know, and I had the same thing with this amazing woman named Diana who she reached out to me when I was having some issues with my wandering head crystals or whatever. And Carrie and I were like, she's one of us, mom. We should keep her somehow. And I was like, she's so dignified. I don't know that we can keep her. I think that
Too classy. Too classy for
she
you.
may get a restraining order. Long story short, she was over my house a few days ago. So like I will come for you. Like now I will. There are a lot of you in this chat right now that I've wanted to come for and didn't because I didn't want to freak you out. And then I just decided screw it. And so like Regina Denton who lives in Daytona, Regina's like, "I'm coming to have drinks with you." I'm like, "Bitch, you best." Like we have to hang, you know? So I really think there's something to this recognition. Tell
Yeah,
me you've
there's
never
no,
felt
no,
it.
there is definitely where you go, yeah, this person, there's a thing. I
I
don't know what it's called, vibe, whatever. Vibe's probably a terrible phrase, but there's a thing, and you know,
Yeah.
yeah, this person, yeah, Max, Max, and I.
Max.
It's like he's my brother. Like it, I don't know. It's just like me and Max just connected. You know, it's
Oh,
just like
Carrie Green, who writes our Mom
Carrie
Outnumbered
Green.
blog. I met Carrie in Santa Rosa, California. I sent you a picture of me with her
Yeah,
daughters today,
yeah,
and I was like, "This woman is something special." Angela Traver, who writes our Ramblings of Balloon,
right.
I was like,
Hey, Angela.
Tony, we need to loop this woman into our little tribe because she's one of our people." So yeah, and sometimes I have to be careful because I remember I sent a DM to Paula Ray about a year
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
and Paula was like, "I am being scammed," and I'm like, "No, that's my actual cat in
But I've had that
my
too.
actual kitchen. Like, no, I just am
Uh,
reaching out."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've had that too. Like, really? You? No, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. Yes,
I
I
had
am. I
one
want
of
to send you a damn water bottle.
I had one of those lightning bolt moments with my best friend when I remember seeing her across the classroom and thinking I have to be friends with her. And I'm introverted, so this was weird for me. And I moved seats to talk to her. And we've been friends now for 16 years.
That's cool.
Because sometimes they're just your people.
Mhm.
And you know, and some of our people, they don't live near me. Like, I don't live near Donna Covington. She's in Lexington, Kentucky. But if you think I'm not keeping a close watch on Donna,
Mhm.
like, y'all, you have no idea how much attention that I'm paying to you.
That, yeah. We know
You got to
I'm
be careful how you
nosy.
say that.
I'm nosy, so I know all your business. This is all I do is just scroll.
We do know, like, I think you would be shocked. A lot of you in the chat tonight, you would be shocked at how much we pay attention to.
We know who you are.
And we'll talk about y'all. Like, that's the other thing. Like, we actually were out for dinner last night. It was Doc and Heather, Lamar and Tony, me and Max. Bob couldn't come, so we just went out. And we grabbed an early dinner, and I forget how we got on the subject, but we were like, "Yeah, just like so and so." It's like we just really are watching you and monitoring your social feeds.
This is not a parasocial relationship. This is a
No,
friend.
no,
This is we're
no,
staring at you.
no, Angela got it right. We are a cult.
I want to answer Neil's question. As Earth's population grows, where do the extra souls come from to reincarnate? Okay, so here is the belief, and this belief is shared by some of the Hindu faith and theosophy and any number of other Christian and non-Christian faiths that have reincarnation as a belief. Okay, God, we'll call God God. We can call God the creator, we can call God the source, whatever you're comfortable with, but let's call God God. God is an unquenchable eternal flame. And from that flame, you can light an infinite number of candles. And when we finish our soul school, to quote James Van Prague, and if you want to have your mind blown, listen to the True Weird Stuff episode, Talking to Heaven. When we finish our soul schooling and we are ready to truly rejoin God, the creator, the source, our little flickering birthday candle is absorbed back into that flame. And so if you think about a flame, you cannot exhaust that flame. It is inexhaustible. You can light an infinite number of candles from that flame. Now, I'm not going to get into soul splitting, which James
Yeah.
does talk about in that episode, because frankly, none of us are in a dorm room high. So that'll be a hard conversation. But if you just think about, like, people profess to believe in an all-powerful, omniscient God and an eternal immortal soul, and then they balk at the idea that God is limitless and that the soul truly is immortal. And that's, if you can accept those two things, God is limitless, the source is infinite, and the soul is immortal, you're 80-90% of
You're
the
there.
way.
You're
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
You're absolutely there.
yeah. Did anybody want to talk about the weather or sporty balls or anything?
Cheryl Newton said Bob would have bailed out
Oh,
after
yeah.
the first
Bob
30
hates
seconds
this.
of this.
Bob hates
And
this.
she's precisely correct.
One of my favorite DMs that I've gotten in the last couple of years was on my Instagram. And it was a person, "Hey, I'm really liking your new podcast, True Weird Stuff. One question, why is Bob not involved? Is that because he would hate it?"
Yes. Yes.
That's exactly why
Absolutely.
he would hate it.
Oh my God.
I told Bob once, and I didn't even think there was anything weird about it. I was like, Bob, when you and I were in the baby soul's waiting room, we made this plan to connect in this life and have this incredible wild adventure together. I don't know what it was about the baby soul's waiting room that was so
We should
traumatizing.
post that because we have that
We
segment.
have
We have
that.
that somewhere. We should post that because yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Like, hello. Like, why is that so upsetting? He was like, I don't want to hear about the baby soul's waiting station. Well, that's how you know you dimly remember the baby soul's waiting station. If Boriska was from Mars, then I'm sure souls come from other places in the universe. Tammy, that is what James Van Prague talked about in the Talking to Heaven episode. That, okay, again, this is going back to, do you really believe in God? Do you really believe in an infinite God? Because if you believe in an infinite, timeless, eternal God, then the idea that there are multiple worlds isn't that much of a stretch.
Has anybody seen the Webb telescope photos on
Oh
NASA?
my word,
I mean,
yeah.
you look at those photographs, and there are millions and millions of stars out there. There has to be something else going on somewhere. It just seems impossible.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah. And you look, I mean, I look at those pictures, you stare at them, and I'm like, holy Hannah. It's amazing.
And of course, we can't answer those questions or even
Never will.
understand the questions because we're tiny, limited little creatures and we exist for the blink of an eye in this incarnation. So, if you really do believe, if you're a person of faith, you have to ask yourself, well, what is it I believe in? What is it? Do I believe in an angry God? Do I believe in a God of limited capability? Do I believe that the earth is flat and 4,000 years old? And hey, believe whatever you want because, I'm not here to change your mind.
I can't remember who the author was, but when I was younger, maybe in high school, there was a story that I'd read that everything that exists is in God's imagination, God's head. And
Yeah.
then there were so many things that God started to forget. And like St. Louis would disappear because God
Because
couldn't
God
keep it all
couldn't
in his
keep it
head,
all. That's a nightmare.
which is right, which is kind of an interesting science fiction story when you're 17 years old. But um, I don't believe that. The universe is just
Like
infinite.
infinite. And we are infinite. We may not be infinite as Heather and Sherry and Tony. We're very finite as this. But that doesn't mean that we aren't made of infinite ingredients
That can be transformed,
that
and
can
that
be
will be
transformed.
transformed over time.
Yeah. So Tammy said, as Jodie Foster said in Cosmos, if we're the only planet with life in the universe, what a terrible waste of space. Oh, girl, amen.
That's a great line.
Amen. And I understand like how fearful, of course we're afraid of death and we seek answers and definites and we want things to be simple. We don't want to have to wrestle.
No, and we want clean, simple answers, but they're not clean, simple answers out there.
I'll tell you what, if you are raised Catholic by old Catholic ladies from the old world as we were, it is almost guaranteed that you're going to be spooky because no, seriously, because
Catholic to
these women were like, well, you might go to heaven unless you end up in purgatory or limbo or maybe hell. And you're like, what?
The 3 foot high Virgin Mary, the 3 foot high Saint Teresa, the 3 foot high burning heart of our Lord Jesus Christ.
The Sacred Heart.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's the incense, I'm telling you, it gets into your brain.
It's funny. It'd been a while since I'd been, and I went to a funeral last year, and they did the incense thing, and it brought it all back.
Yeah.
Just that
Oh,
smell.
that smell.
It just brought it all back, and I was like 10 years old again, having getting my first communion or whatever. It was interesting.
Let's read Jill Henley's comment. She said, this conversation makes me feel a little less crazy. I've listened to you all for so long, had children at the same time, gone through life changes at the same time that you and Bob and others seem like friends and not just a radio show. I've worried about you as marriages have ended, as you took the show out on your own, etc. Sherry's the only person I know who loves Ancient Aliens as much as I do. Please don't ever underestimate the effect you have on people's lives.
That's so sweet.
Girl, I want you to feel
That
less
is so
crazy.
sweet.
I think the world is making us nuts. I
it
know
does.
I do.
You're right.
I think the
No, you're
world
right.
is making us nuts. And it's easy to feel hopeless, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
It's easy
You
to feel
just watch the
hopeless.
news, right? And you're like, you're out. So, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, I feel like one of the questions I asked James Van Prague at the end of the Talking to Heaven episode was, so let's put your money where your mouth is. You communicate with spirit. You have seen what lies beyond this mortal meat suit. How do you feel about dying? And he giggled. He giggled.
Did you really?
Yes. And he said, listen, I'm not ready to go right now. I like this life, this version of myself. But when the time comes, I'm going to see my sister and I'm going to see my mom. And I know what happens after this is wonderful. So I'm not afraid of it. I'm not quite ready to leave, but when the time comes, I can't wait.
Wow.
Have you ever had anyone that you've asked, hey, what do you think about dying? Respond by giggling and going, well, not today, but when it happens, I'm so excited.
That's an incredible attitude. That really is. Probably a very good one too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you
I
could,
mean, we all have people we want to see again, right? I mean, we all have people that
Yeah.
are past that we want to see again, and that's comforting in a way.
you should talk to people in end of life care, hospice. They have stories to tell about what people experience as they transition from this life to whatever it is that comes next. And those are hopeful stories.
Just do a true word stuff.
I should do a true weird stuff about hospice workers. I think they're angels. I think if you're a hospice, do we have any hospice workers in the house tonight? If you're a hospice worker, an end of life palliative care worker, you may have never considered this, but I think you might be an angel because that is
Yeah,
sacred
yeah, that
work
really is incredible work.
that they do. So yeah, that's kind of a heavy conversation, but that episode, if you want to listen to it, is called The Boy from Mars. The one we did last week was about cults, specifically a cult from California back in the day, like 20s, 30s, 40s, that was founded on white supremacy and abstinence. But of course, the leader of the cult was not practicing abstinence.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course. That's always the case.
Good for thee, but
Not for
not for
me.
me. And the episode that we have coming out tomorrow night is called I Do, I Do, I Do. And it takes a look at what life was like before divorce was legal
Wow.
through the lens of one woman's story and what a character she was. And by the way, this is why you need to stop wasting any of your energy on being a complete asshole because no one's going to remember you. Because I can tell you, I mean, one of the things I like to do in True Weird Stuff is tell forgotten women's stories because, like, these women live badass, wild, big lives and, like, nobody knows who they are. So, tomorrow's episode takes us inside the life of a woman named Money Eye. Isn't that an unusual name?
Sounds
Money
like a
Eye.
James Bond movie.
Yeah. She was born in Ohio. Her father was incredibly successful. She was an heiress, but she wanted to be a movie star. So she went to Hollywood in the 30s and she did a couple of movies. She was not a great actress, but she broke in. Then she fell head over heels in love with this man. They got married, they had a child. He suggested a vacation in Miami, Tony. Charles Xavier, absolutely
That's
not.
my dinner.
That is Tony's pizza. Do not touch it. Do not, Tony, he'll take it. Don't let him get it. Anyway, so back in the 30s and 40s and
It's not
50s,
that funny. It's not that funny, Heather. I'm
I've been a
hungry.
victim of Charles's
My blood
pizza
sugar is
theft.
dropping. It's not that funny.
detectives could raid your hotel room on suspicion of adultery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This woman, her hotel room was raided. Her child was kidnapped. Turned out her husband was behind it all because he was a real piece of work. She ended up divorcing him and suing him and winning. And then she got married again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again, then again, then again, then again. And the only reason she was able to pull all of this off was because after the first marriage, after the kidnapping and the police raid, and she had done nothing to deserve any of it, she moved to Reno, Nevada, which was one of the only places in the
You
whole
could do anything
country
you
you
want.
could get divorced.
Wow. I was reading about the movie codes back in the
Oh, the Hays
40s.
Code.
The Hays Code.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't have an affair on in a movie
Mhm.
in those days because the censors would like change they would literally change the script to I was blown away. I had
Yeah.
no idea. I was blown away by all that.
And the star of this week's episode was in a couple of pre-Hays Code. So the Hays Code is where we got the movie rating system, G, PG, PG-13 and all. That's where that came from. It's a form of censorship. Prior to the Hays Code, movies were just like whatever, right?
Like
So
the internet.
yeah, so our girl was in some pre-Hays Code Hollywood movies, and some of them were considered so morally debauched and scandalous that they wouldn't show them in theaters in certain cities. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
because these were people that were not married who were falling into bed, and I mean, it was the kind of stuff that is happening right now in your neighborhood, like 2 doors down.
But it did happen then too.
It happened then
That's the
too.
thing. It happened
Yeah.
then too. They just didn't want you to. That wasn't
Yeah.
appropriate for families. It wasn't.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure that we maintain this level of purity. And the whole thing was fascinating. That even some classic movies like Casablanca,
Oh,
they
God.
changed the script
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the codes.
But here's what's chilling. There are not a majority of our fellow Americans, but a loud minority of our fellow Americans who would like to see no-fault divorce illegal
Mhm.
and birth control illegal. There are people yelling very loudly to roll us back literally nearly 100 years. And here's what I will say about that. Good luck. Because 70, 80, 100 years ago, people simply, when divorce wasn't legal, they just didn't get divorced. They were bigamists.
Mhm.
Right. It didn't
Um,
stop them.
it didn't
They
stop
did what they were going to
anything.
do.
It didn't stop anything. And so these kinds of laws that like really encroach on people's personal private freedoms, they never end well.
No.
And that's kind of what this week's episode was
Prohibition.
about. Oh, prohibition's a classic
Prohibition.
example.
I mean, that's just
Classic
one
example.
giant example of something that didn't end well.
And like I'm divorced. I'm a divorced person. The only person that would have benefited from my remaining in my marriage was my ex-husband. I wasn't, that, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my children. It wasn't good for anyone but him. And you don't get to behave that way
No,
without
no,
consequences.
that's right.
Mm.
No,
But
that's
there are
exactly
people that
right.
want to bring that back. And so I had actually been, Heather, I was researching something else when I discovered Muniai and thought, oh, you know what? This woman, this badass has a story to tell. I'm going to tell her story.
Love that. I love a good story about a woman who did something so wild and crazy that just like I think her name was Mae West, the famous
Yeah.
movie star. I love her. I love it when they just, oh, I can't. All right, watch
Right.
me.
Yeah.
And there are always, in every historical era, there are always men and women who go, what?
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are giant historical change
And
makers.
Mae West, she was amazing because she was able to walk that line,
Mm.
that double entendre line, and get away with some of the stuff that she said, which was pretty promiscuous stuff for the time.
She is one of my like personal heroines. I've read so many books and watched documentaries on her just because of how fascinating she was and how she went to prison for her morals and beliefs
Mhm.
and really stood up for the way she felt things should be. And that, I admire that quality so much.
Well, one of the things that we touch on in the episode that drops tomorrow is it is a little bit easier to be a badass when you have money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the woman whose story we tell tomorrow around this idea of people being able to break into your hotel room to see what you're doing. Like, what? This is supposed to be like America? Excuse me. Um, she inherited a pile, like in today's money, it's insane, but in the money of her era, it was batshit. So she had the ability to make her choices, right? Because she wasn't going to starve or end up out on the street. Money can be a form of courage, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
For people. And yet, if you've listened to a lot of True Weird Stuff episodes, you'll see where people without money, when they start making those choices, they crash headlong
Into
into
the
the
system.
law
Yeah.
and the system. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but buddy, does it buy freedom?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, it buys freedom for sure. So Wendy Wright says having money is so much more beneficial for people. I do not believe that money makes you happy. I just know it makes you comfortable and free.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you to get happy. And there are plenty of people with tons of money that are miserable, which is our
Very
proof,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they have the freedom to keep searching and searching and searching.
You guys were talking on the show the other day about Sharon Stone.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Sharon Stone and that she's always on the hook to buy dinner.
Mhm.
It's like, well, yeah, you're Sharon Stone for crying out loud.
You're worth $65 million.
Yeah, you gotta pick up the dinner tab. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's just like I am all for the sanctity of the family and the welfare of children. But as someone who grew up in a family that was riddled by domestic violence and addiction and guns going off and people never feeling safe, not my mom. I mean, I will never talk publicly about some of the things that I experienced as a kid because it would be so painful for the other people in that story. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that forcing my mother to remain in that marriage was better for me and my brothers.
You
It
know,
just wasn't.
sometimes it's not. I think in my family, it's true too. I think my mom threw my dad out, and I think she was right to do that. I think it would have been miserable for all of us,
I think
Yeah.
also
and she hung in there.
in less extreme circumstances when people just fall out of love, it like
Mhm.
think of the mental health and
Yeah.
how much your life is impacted.
You know,
You know?
there's a friend of mine who's going through it right now, who they're they have two sons, and their entire focus went from the minute those kids were born. They're both in college now. Was on those two kids. They don't even know each other now,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they're struggling, and they're living 1,000, 1,500 miles apart right now. I don't know if they'll ever get back together. I hope that they do, but they've just spent so much time focusing on the kids that they forgot each other. They don't even
Yeah.
know each other anymore because it's been 25 years and they've not gotten to know each other or
It's
stay connected, I guess, maybe.
it's so hard to make blanket decisions about everyone's life. Like in a perfect world, would my husband and his the mother of his children stayed married for a million years? Yes, in a perfect world. But this isn't a perfect world.
Right.
And because their marriage didn't work, not only am I married to my husband and I get to love his amazing children, but his first wife is like my sister.
Mm.
And my life is immeasurably richer for that. Now, if you gave me a magic wand and I could make that family remain intact forever, maybe I would cut that deal. I don't know. But here's what I do know. You don't get to tell me that.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
That's me telling me that.
Right.
I don't want the government telling me that. I don't want somebody whose religion I don't share telling me that. I certainly sure as don't want some incel on Twitter telling me
And
that.
it's not always going to be that way. The
Yeah.
dynamic is not always that. I mean,
It's not
you get
black and
along
white.
well
It's not
with
black
your
and white.
sister wife, but
Yeah.
some don't, and that's part of it.
It just comes down to we need laws for some things and we need values for some things and we need you to mind your own business for some things. Like work on your own house and
Yeah.
that was the what I started researching that ended up being this episode that drops tomorrow was something completely different that'll end up being a True Word Stuff episode one of these days anyway. But I could not shake the feeling like this woman was in the bathroom when a bunch of cops kicked down the door and then took her baby. For
For
what?
what? For
For
what?
what? And let me say, this woman is long in the grave, but queen, yes, because you schooled all of those sons of bitches. Now, did she live happily ever after? I can't
Right.
say.
Right. Maybe. Maybe not. Right.
I can't say. But I know that that baby that got kidnapped, that she fought and just about died to get back, he did okay. He ended up married with a couple of kids, living a very private life in Nevada. And that's none of your business, and that ain't none of my business. And it sure shit ain't some guy on Twitter's business.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, Heather, once again, every comment is an entry for True Weird coffee mugs.
Coffee mugs.
I
Yep.
don't have a mug here to show anybody.
I'd have to run up and get one. You want
Natty.
me to?
You want to?
I'll run. Yeah,
All
you
right.
chat.
So
I'll run get a mug.
the chat. Um, one of the Tammys, there's a couple Tammys in there whose 45th high school reunion is this summer. And
Oh,
I
man.
just wanted to say, Tammy, I'm right there with you, girl. I'm right there with you.
This is controversial, but I skipped my 10-year high school reunion because,
I don't think it's controversial. I don't think you missed all that much.
well, so people keep making me try to make me feel bad for it, but like I have my best friend Shelby, who I keep in contact with. I didn't have many other groups of friends to really go back and visit. I wasn't
Yeah.
close to many people.
And I would say this, and I'd love to hear what people think in the chat. 10 is too close. 10 is too close. So I remember going to our 10th year reunion, and it was so much like high school all over
Mhm.
again. The cliques were the cliques, and the groups were the groups.
Ew.
And then right before the pandemic, we had our 40th, and I went to it. And my buddy Jeff and I, we sort of worked the room, and all that bullshit, frankly, that clickiness, that who were the kids that wore the cheap dungarees from the department store versus who are the kids who had the Levi's? That was gone, man. Because we're all old, fat, and gray now.
By 20 or 30?
30.
30.
30
Okay.
and 40, really. 40, really, because
Okay.
Tammy, I think it's Tammy Johnson, is her 45th is coming up. And it, but at 10, 10's weird. And I think you could miss 10. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think you could absolutely miss 10. When you start to get to 20 and you start getting beyond that, everybody's sort of matured. They're grown-ups,
I need to go.
They're
I've never
grown-ups.
gone.
I went to my wife's. I was on all of my wife's reunions every time I went to her 45th last fall. Now here's the thing. Please don't turn on the fluorescent lights to take a picture. Keep the lights dim. Everybody looks so much better when the lights are dim. But but we've had but I really do think that at 10 there's that kind of crap. You're still
in
high school in a way, right?
Yeah.
And I even chase it. I don't know how everybody else feels on the chat, but that's kind of that's was kind of my thinking. But I'm looking forward to my 45th, and I enjoyed my 40th. I had a blast at my 40th.
I
really
need to go.
You should go.
It's
You've
so-
never been to any of them?
I've never been to any
my God.
because, like for the longest time, I was a single mom and we traveled so much on the weekends. It was so hard.
I'm gonna go with you. And I'm gonna go. You might remember Sheri. She's the most influential woman in radio. 7 years in a row, she's been named the most influential woman in radio. I listen. I would pay for that. I would pay for your airfare. I'll buy the hotel. I'll buy the dinner, the ticket.
Right,
Just let me be your pimp.
You're on. So here's the true weird. I didn't flip my camera, so it's backward. This we joke about how thrifty Tony is, but my husband Kevin designed the logo, and my daughter Olivia painted the artwork.
It's gorgeous.
Because around here, everybody's got a picture.
Listen, I'm going to out myself here because those of you who are somewhat familiar with me know that I suffer from ADD. You also know that there is a nationwide shortage of Ritalin. So I've had to cut back on my dosage. And we've had some of you who have said, Tone, whatever happened to that mug I was supposed to win? And so I go, oh, crap, I forgot to send it to you. And then I send it. So you eventually get it, but sometimes it's months after the fact.
No, but it's so real.
So this time, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the Bob and Sheri store. You're going to get a coupon code for free postage. You're going to get don't laugh so hard. You're going to get a coupon code for free postage. You're going to get a coupon code for the actual mug. And so it will be $0 to you. Now, I mean, if you go in there and you want to buy a stuffed bear, we have bears, we have tigers, we have giraffes that have little Bob and Sheri t-shirts on. I will not be sad if you buy something else. But this will be free, and you don't have to worry about Tony spacing out on shipping you the damn mug.
Listen, he's so telling you the truth. The nationwide Ritalin and Adderall shortage. Tony takes Ritalin. My husband takes Ritalin. They both could not get their prescription filled at the exact same time.
I'm calling for those of you who use the Kroger pharmacy. They have this dialing thing. And every day I call in and they go, we're sorry, it's on back order. It will be available tomorrow at 4:22 p.m. Like they know to the minute when the FedEx driver is going to bring it. But then you call the next day and they go, I'm sorry, it is on back order. It will be back to you at 4:22 p.m. Like, for crying out loud, when are we going to get it? And the fact is, it's been like 3 weeks and I have nothing. I have nothing. I stole my daughter's pregnant. She can't take it. I've stolen hers. I'm taking my kids' Ritalin.
So wait. So the nationwide Ritalin shortage situation first reared its ugly head.
I think I got to get Joe. I'm going to send Joe my address. 'cause she's
Gummies,
thinking
Tony.
gummies. She's saying gummies.
Right after Thanksgiving. So Tony and my husband did not have their medication for the entire holiday season. And I would talk to Tony. I'd be like, how's it going, Tony? He's like, oh, I'm trying to ship stuff from the Bob and Sheri store. Oh. Kevin is Christmas shopping because he knows he's going to have this like wild ortho surgery in January. So he's trying to like Christmas shop and he's trying to do stocking stuffers. He can't find his truck in the parking lot.
I feel him. I so feel him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm going to need gummies too of a different kind. Heather and I don't suffer from this. We deal with the people who suffer.
You
from
have to
this.
go back to the house to get three different trips back to the house to get stuff you forgot before you go to work.
Oh,
Sucks.
Claudia says no one's going to like this, but cutting wheat, sugar, corn, rice, and most processed foods can alleviate ADD. Girl, you're right. Nobody likes that.
Claudia, I will starve to death. Claudia, I will starve to death.
Wheat, sugar, corn, right. That's all the good stuff.
I'll just, there's a cardboard box over there. I'm just going to eat that.
I remember when I was going through my wild, terrible insomnia and somebody reached out to me and said, just so you know, caffeine and wine, if you could eliminate those, you might sleep.
Might as well kill yourself.
That's too high a price. Like, there's no way.
They tell me all the time with your anxiety, you should eliminate or cut down on your caffeine. And no, I can't. Not with the coffee. I cannot. I need my coffee.
And listen, and I've heard some of that stuff. My son has ADD too, and I've heard some of that stuff. And I'm like, the kid can't be a kid. Let the kid be a kid. He can't. We're going to cut out all this food. We're going to cut out wheat and rice. And I mean, he's 5. Can the kid be a kid, for crying out loud?
I just, this version of reality is so terrible some days that if you couldn't have wheat and sugar and caffeine and alcohol and rice.
So there is sugar, caffeine, and alcohol right here. Right here.
Even want to live. So let me get this right.
No.
So I'm just sucking on a stone all day and scooping litter boxes. Take me, Jesus. Like, what? No, I just
You can have 4 almonds all day, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I like Suzanne. She says, as I say, do you want to live an extra 5 years eating cardboard and sawdust, or do I want to enjoy what I eat? I am never going to be thin anyway. Queen.
Cheers.
I'm so, can I just say,
Oh my God.
and this is a subject for a whole nother happy hour because we're running late and we have to let y'all go get back to your lives, but I am so tired of self-improvement. Like, I know that there's a lot of room for improvement, but this bitch is tired of self-improvement.
Absolutely.
Like, I just,
Absolutely.
this haunted house is an as-is price.
And by the way, for the record, let me correct it. So, Ashley, no, he was 5. He's 32 now. So just to correct the record, he still has ADD and he's still a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Love him.
I love him. He's the best.
I love him, but boy,
that boy, you want to talk about a soul that came to this earth to live a very specific existence in a very specific way. That is Christian Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
That boy has his heart is so big. It's a wonder he can fit it into his body, but his judgment.
Unlike his dad, whose daughter accuses his heart of being 3 sizes too small.
Oh, so y'all, thank you for joining us for this episode of Happy Hour, where we have reminded you that you cannot die, you can only be transformed, and that while you're stuck in this shit show, you might as well have some wheat and sugar and alcohol. Heather, did I miss anything? I feel like that kind of summed it up. And every entry gets a
And y'all
Get you
want
in
one
the
of these.
running.
And I'm not shipping it, so you're guaranteed to receive
Yeah,
it.
you will actually get it. All right, we'll see you next week on Happy Hour. Oh, and tomorrow on the regular Bob and Sheri show, the People's Movie Critic is reviewing Lisa Frankenstein,
Yes.
starring Cole Sprouse. Where My Sweet Life of Zack and Cody fans? What? Cole Sprouse from Riverdale. He played Jughead. Plays the monster in Lisa Frankenstein. So Lamar's going to
gonna be
review
good.
that tomorrow.
That's going to be good.
Cheers. Thank you all
All
for
right.
joining us tonight.
Well-
Night. Bye.
Okay, we're clear.